Okay, guys, we are going to talk about the lead up to the Texas Revolution, not the actual revolution, but we're going to talk about the kind of the road to revolution, how we get the mistrust between Mexico and the Anglo-Texans building and building and building until we get into actual combat. So, 1824. 1824 is a big, important year with regard to the rest of the revolution because 1824 is when the Constitution, Mexican Constitution of 1824, is adopted. Now, it established a federal government, but the Constitution, the 1824 Constitution, gave limited power to the central government. Okay, that's a huge, super important focus for the rest of this lecture. Think about that in terms of if the federal government, the main government in Mexico City, tells a Mexican state what to do, the Mexican states can kind of be like, nah, we're good. We don't have to do that. And that is the power behind this states' rights or states, having broad power in this Constitution. It's called the Federalist Constitution. If you want to get some different words on there, you have to be careful because federalism in Mexico and federalism you'll hear about later on are similar concepts, but they're applied in a little different way, and it can get confusing as to uh, what the Federalists wanted in different areas, Mexico versus the United States. All right, let's jump ahead. So, most Tejanos, Texans, and U.S. settlers support the Constitution of 1824. Pretty much everybody in Mexico is happy with it, but there are some problems with what they're dealing with. Let me go back real quick. I think I skipped something. No, I got it. Okay. So now in 1825, there are a few different presidents who've taken over. There's been some not revolutions, but there's been people who've been pushed out of power as president and new guys put in. And in 1825, there's a new constitution written. And as part of that constitution, Texas is made part of Coahuila. And I apologize for mispronouncing that because I always do. So this is a Mexican state, and so is Texas. And what they're doing here is dividing up Texas and putting it under another Mexican state. And they're doing this because they are afraid of Texas becoming too independent, too much able to control its own self under the Constitution of 1824. People didn't like, oh, what are these Texans going to do? So they tried to control them politically. And of course, the Texans don't like it. All right. So the idea here is that, well, one of the issues that separates Mexico or Mexicans and these Anglo settlers is the issue of slavery. Remember when we talked about Mexico in the past, Mexico is a nation of people who were enslaved in a lot of cases to the Spanish. And there was that whole rebellion thing. People who fought the Spanish in Mexico, they fought on Mexico's side to rebel against the Spanish, are still alive. They're in power now. They didn't like it when their grandmother or their great grandmother was treated as a slave by the Spanish. They're not going to stand for slavery in their country. So there's a big movement to get rid of slavery going through Mexico. It's successful in some places, it's not successful in others, but they really are trying to get rid of slavery across the entirety of Mexico, and they're definitely not going to let it in the colonies in Texas. So they're starting to pinch down on allowing slavery to come in, and that's frustrating for the Texans because the Texans wanted to bring their slaves. So in 1820s, both Coahuila and Tejas and Mexican national government restrict slavery. Texans ignore it. Several Texans, including Stephen F. Austin, are opposed to slavery, but they're not going to bother doing anything about it because they're getting rich. So a lot of times we say these things, oh, well, they were opposed to slavery, but they felt it was important for the economy. That's not saying anything nice about Stephen F. Austin. That's him being okay with a really bad thing because people are getting rich. So, yeah, it doesn't say very good things about him. Then in 1827, Coahuila can control over Texas, decides to outlaw slavery. In 1829, the president, Vicente Guerrero, issues a decree ending slavery. This is pretty much ignored by Texans, and it's a sore spot coming up. All right. So the law of April 6, 1830. Now, what's happened prior to this law of April 6th is Mir Turan is a general. He is sent by Guerrero into Texas to check out Texas. What's Texas like? And in Turan's report, the Turan report, he writes that, man, there is way too much English being spoken. There's not enough Mexican goods for sale. There's a lot of American goods for sale. It does not look like Mexico. It looks like America. And the Mexican government is freaking out because they feel like they're about to lose a big piece of their territory. So, law of April 6, 1830, ban U.S. immigration. Uh, no more bringing in your slaves. Mexico hopes this is going to increase their control over Texas. It really just increases friction between the Texans and the Mexican government. Remember, we're talking about the breakdown of these Texans seeing themselves as Mexicans who are there to be a loyal, Mexican citizen. That's what you were doing when you moved to this other country. Unfortunately, these Texans are not they're not feeling it. So we start with some of the conflicts that begin. Now, some of these are close to outright rebellion. Um, some of these people who are the people who actually do commit these acts are in open rebellion. But well, let's dive into it. Okay, so Anahuac, under the law of April 6, 1830, it's a reaction to Anahuac it's a rebellion against the law being enforced. Because there's basically a bunch of these townspeople uh, led by a brother of some men who get arrested for breaking the law of April 6, 1830. And they get arrested, and then the brother and a bunch of his friends decide to break him out of jail. Um, Tensions rising between the groups and the Mexican officials. Eventually, uh, there is some fighting, and a whole bunch more people are arrested. So yeah, it's all over import taxes and trade and all that sort of stuff. So that is the Battle of Anahuac. Now, Battle of Valesico, these are minor skirmishes. Basically, uh, there's a bunch of guys who hear about, what Anahuac is going on. They decide, hey, let's go over to Brazoria and get a cannon and then we're going to go back over to Anahuac and we're going to join the fight and let's see what happens. So they run over to Brazoria and they get this cannon, and on their way back, um, basically the Mexican officials are like, "Whoa, wait a minute, where are you going with that cannon?" And the Texans and the Mexicans, they have a little skirmish there at Valesico, and it becomes this, the Battle of Valesico, and basically the Mexicans, they ran out of bullets at this thing because again, this is like the police. It's not uh, you know, this is not people who are ready for war. This is just like the police fighting with some guys who happen to be pretty well armed, and then eventually they surrender to the Texas colonists. Now, that leads us to the Turtle Bayou resolutions because people are like, oh, that got out of hand real quick. And if we're not careful, the real military is going to show up. Okay, so 150 townspeople who were opposed to what happened at Anahuac, this whole rebellion thing, they're like, nope, not part of us. We don't want to deal with that. We need to write out some stuff saying why this happened, what it was really about. And so they meet at a place called Turtle Bayou. Um, they start basically expressing their opinion in a document, talking about what happened, uh, what their grievances are. But what they're saying is that this isn't a rebellion against the government. This is a defending of their rights under the Constitution of 1824. Now, super important that these guys in the Turtle Bayou Resolution, not only do they say, hey, we're all about the Constitution of 1824, but we're also all in favor of the new kid who's pushing to be president. There's this new guy who's on the scene who's running to be president, and he's talking about returning to the Constitution of 1824. His name is Santa Anna. So they're real excited. Yeah, new guy talking about Constitution of 1824. They're really super excited about him bringing back the Constitution of 1824. It's all going to be good. Texas will be Texas again. It'll all be okay if we just support Santa Anna. So we get into Bustamante versus Santa Anna. So Bustamante took over for Guerrero, okay, because he overthrew and killed President Guerrero. He takes complete control, ends the Constitution of 1824. That's what really makes everybody mad. That's what all this tension started from. Along comes the new kid, Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, who, by the way, helped Antonio Bustamante or Anastasio Bustamante run and become president. Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna decides, you know what? We're getting rid of this guy. He runs for president, out with the old guy, in with the new guy, because he tells everybody he's going to go back to the Constitution of 1824. Texans like it, Mexico likes it, everybody likes it. But he doesn't do that. Okay. Santa Anna is elected president of Mexico in 1833. They hope he's going to go back to the Constitution of 1824. There is a convention in Texas that is held in 1832 to 1833. This is basically the Texans wanting to appeal directly to Santa Anna to say, hey guys, this is what we want. Okay, so there was the Turtle Bayou Resolution in 1832. Let's have a convention. Let's get together to send our ideas to Santa Anna. It goes nowhere. Literally, the people in San Antonio won't even take their ideas. So they have another convention in 1833. Everybody gets together. They basically say this stuff: allow U.S. immigration, make Texas a separate state, make slavery okay in Texas, exempt Texas from customs duties. Hold on. Phone call. Ugh. Telemarketers. Can't ever stop calling you. All right, let's get back to it. So This convention of 1833 basically get these ideas. They want to, get stuff together to talk about, you know, basically everything the Texans want for, from Santa Ana. And they're going to send those ideas directly to them. So they pick Stephen F. Austin to skip over the government in San Antonio and take their stuff straight to the man, right to the president, go to Santa Ana, talk to him. Austin sets out, it's a 3-month mission. You walk, ride a horse, walk, ride a horse, all the way down to Mexico City to present the demands. Conventions of 1832 rather than 1833 had met. These are the demands, go. So Santa Ana's a busy guy. And eventually we'll get around to discussing Austin's demands, but it's not until November. Now, in October, Austin was a little frustrated and he wrote a letter ordering them to go ahead and begin to organize a state government, not a independent country government, a state still part of the country of Mexico government, even though that demand hadn't been granted yet. Now, here's the thing. When Austin met with Santa Ana said, I love your ideas. He probably didn't say that, but he did say everything but. I agree to everything but you being your own state. He expressly forbid Texas from becoming their own state. So the one thing that Austin does ahead of time is the one thing that Santa Ana forbade or said no to. So the whole idea there is that you can't do that. You go ahead and do that. You are like literally defying the government. That can be treason in some countries. All right, so Austin's arrested, and because somebody found his letter and read that, and then the whole thing goes really badly for Austin. He ends up getting locked up for a year. And he's not in like a prison. He's in a house. He's under house arrest. He's treated pretty well. But basically, he's arrested on the way back to Texas. And yeah, it's a problem for Texas to have your ambassador essentially locked up for, committing treason. So, all right, what do we learn and what do we get out of this? Okay, so what led the colonists to write the Turtle Bayou Resolution? This is important. Okay, several things. It's Anahuac, the tensions between the two groups that led to gunfire. The townspeople writing the resolution to explain their acts of rebellion, explain they were loyal to Santa Ana. Now, what impact did the Constitution of 1824 have on Texas? Big thing here is many Texans supported Santa Ana's hopes of overthrowing the Constitution and going back, or the Constitution of 1825 and going back to the Constitution of 1824. So the idea there that Santa Ana said, yeah, I got you, we're going back to the one you like. And then the Texans feel double crossed when he doesn't. That's going to be a big problem. So the impact of the Turtle Bayou Resolution is basically the Texans supporting Santa Ana. Then the impact of the Constitution of 24 is that, yeah, it's what the Texans loved. It's why they voted for Santa Ana. But then the double cross comes and man, are they angry. And that will bring us to the start of the Texas Revolution, and we'll get into that. All right, guys. See you next time.